Hi everyone, it's Rax. You guys know how powerful Whirlwind's going to be next season, right? It pixels everything and then you can whirlwind everything down with your area damage and win. Well, guess what? There's something that's even stronger than that, and that is playing Hammer of the Ancients. Watch as this clear just smashes a 143. I am absolutely certain next season, if you practice and if you get a good amount of Paragon, you will be able to do 150 solo with this build. I might even be able to do it right now with my Barb. It would be a little bit of a fish, and with the laggy PTR, it'd be a little bit challenging. But this build is just completely insane with using the Whirlwind power. So I don't know if Blizzard's going to buff the HOTA power to be as good, but this is plenty good enough. So let me show you how to do this. Well, first of all, as we just said, we're taking the Whirlwind power. We gather everything up. And this build is very specific in how you manage your cooldowns and when you deal your damage. So if you pay attention to my convention of the elements in the bottom middle, you need to understand that it goes physical and then cold and then fire. So fire is where you want to deal all of your damage. So sometime between the end of physical and the end of cold, you need to accomplish a few things. You need to have a very nice little pixel of monsters to smash down. You need to have procced your Band of Might so you don't die during fire cycle, and so you don't have to proc it during your fire cycle, because the only thing we want to do during our fire cycle is throw hammers. And then we also want to do some damage in cold to spawn an Oculus Ring. That way we can essentially do double damage in fire. And then all while that's happening, we need to spam our Wrath of the Berserker. And we need to keep our Ancients up. And once again, we need to intermittently keep up our Band of Might before we do our little rotation. So that's everything that we need to do. How do we put all that together and put it into practice? So you whirlwind around and gather, gather, gather. And then you need to look at your Band of Might cycle. It's that little picture of the ring right there. And when I stomp, you can either take Stomp or Furious Charge. Whenever you press that, it's going to refresh, I believe, for 8 seconds. So you need to refresh it sometime during cold. Now, it doesn't always work very well. Sometimes you have to refresh it like halfway through physical, and then cold comes and you don't really want to waste a global using another ground stomp, but you need to. You need to have free reign during your fire cycle, so you have to at some point stomp in cold. Then about halfway through cold, you need to stop and start dealing damage to make an Oculus Ring. And then once you have it, you whirlwind over there very quickly and you smash all the way through fire cycle. Now, does this work perfectly every time? No. There's going to be wallers, there's going to be wormholes, things are going to go horribly wrong like they always do in Diablo 3. But the more of those kinds of cycles that you can get in the habit of generating, the further you're going to get in the clear, right? The higher tier you're going to be able to do. So we have an Oculus Ring for fire here. We smash on through. And this build does very, very terrible single target damage. So we are very much relying on bringing as many elites over here as possible with as much trash to AoE it down. Now notice I did something very, very specific. I pulled the entire Fields of Misery, but I left one little quadrant just north of me undiscovered. I got a shield pylon, which is not exactly what I wanted, but I'll take it. It gives me double damage from my squirts. And I'm just going to sit here and try to kill as many of these elites as I possibly can while my shield pylon is still going. And then I'm going to try to discover that final pylon and hope that it's going to be a conduit. So use this strategy in your clears. Don't pull the entire map. Pull most of the map and leave a little section of it undiscovered, and then you might get another pylon. Okay, so it looks like I've killed every elite that I'm going to kill. Let's see. Can we get a conduit? Can we get any pylon at all? Okay, we got a power. That's really not what I wanted. I need the power to kill the boss at the end. So this is pretty much like a waste, right? And I don't think power is enough for me to use on these pretty healthy elites without a ton of trash. Yes, if I sat here for the entire power pylon, I probably could kill them, no problem. But that's not the question. The question is not, can I kill them? The question is it worth it? And I've been down this road before, and once again, the single target of this build sucks. So even with a power pylon, I think I'm just going to walk away and go to the next map. I think that's the better play. So I pretty much threw away my power pylon. I really need it for the boss. I'm thinking this is going to be lost. This map's going to have to be really good. Condi is still in play. Maybe I could get it later. Oh, I have a festering with a channeling. Okay, so the channeling does help me a little bit. It helps me manage my Ancients and my Wrath of Berserker a little bit more. I can just spam them all I want. So that's not... It does a little something for me. But I am pretty much not going to clear this unless I have a conduit. I don't think, like, even if I spawn the boss with this amount of a lead, without a power, I still don't think I could win. So, I guess I'll just whirl on forward and see what we have here. Now, we've already spawned 3 pylons. We spawned shield and power and channeling. Not only that, I very, very recently spawned the channeling. So the most pylons you can get in a rift is 4. So it is possible we could get 1 more, and it is possible that it could be a conduit. But in order to spawn a conduit, I'm likely going to have to get a ton of progression. So I am not extremely hopeful here, but it's not impossible, so we're just going to keep going with it. So I'm just trying to thin out the herd a little bit here. That was my fire cycle. All right, now we can go forward. And let's see. Oh my... Are you kidding me? A conduit? Wait, what? Okay, so let's think about this. After the shield, I spawned power. I clicked the power and I killed practically nothing. And then I spawned a channeling. And then after spawning the channeling, I killed practically nothing and then instantly spawned a conduit. That's got to be one of the luckiest streaks of pylon spawns I've ever seen. Like, it just pretty much gave me 3 pylon spawns in a row for doing nothing. You do not see that every day. In fact, you barely see that ever. Well, with this kind of a bar, I better be able to kill this boss, right? I literally have half of the Greater Rift to kill Stonesinger, and all it took was 4 pylons. I pretty much threw 2 of them away entirely. The power I did nothing with, and the channeling was okay, but it's not really going to help me. So all that damage was from the conduit. Now, stacking Stricken here, you can stack Stricken faster with Whirlwind than Hammer of the Ancients. So what you should do in these high clears is spend a lot of the beginning of the fight whirlwinding. The problem with Stonesinger is he consistently spawns these stupid turrets, and these turrets are going to take some of my Stricken stacks. So my only goal is to stack Stricken here, and this boss keeps spawning ads that take my Stricken stacks, the only thing I'm trying to accomplish. So essentially, Stonesinger is not invited to my birthday party. What you can do in the beginning when you're not whirlwinding is you can Hammer of the Ancient. And when you Hammer of the Ancient, you do it again on Fire Cycle, because that's like the only point in the fight where you're actually dealing any kind of damage. And then after a while, after stacking Stricken for a few minutes, there's some mathematical inflection point that I don't know what it is, where it's just better to just Hammer of the Ancient the rest of the fight. And a general rule is, I would say, stack Stricken with Whirlwind for, I don't know, 2 minutes or so. It depends on what pylons you have. If you have a power, you could do less. But I don't know, like stack Whirlwind for 2 minutes, and then the rest of the fight just Hammer of the Ancient. It's something like that. All right, well, it's actually a little bit challenging to survive against Stone Singer. First of all, Stone Singer and his friends hit extremely hard, so they can just straight up kill me. By the way, I have 0 points in vitality here, like 500,000 health. So this build is extremely tanky. Even if if you put in any vitality, it's pretty hard to kill you as long as you keep your Band of Might up. But the reason why he can kill me is not because my character isn't tanky. It's because it's hard to keep up your cooldowns just fighting one target. If my Wrath of the Berserker or my Ancients fall off, then I am, in huge trouble. Another thing that you can't do is you can't spam your Ground Stomp, because if you do that, then your Ground Stomp is constantly on cooldown, and then it eats your Obsidian Ring procs, and then they don't go into your Wrath of the Berserker and your Ancients. They fall off, and then you die. So, what does all that complicated stuff mean? It means keep your buffs up, and only stomp when your Band of Might is right about to fall off. Your Obsidian Ring will reset it instantly, and then don't cast it again until you absolutely have to. That's the way you're going to stay alive on these single target bosses. All right, so we're getting him lower and lower and lower here. It's certainly about time for me to start thinking just to hammer away for the rest of my life. So let's see when we decide to do that. To get my Ancients up there at some point. And it's going to be very soon where I'm just going to hammer him the rest of the way. But remember how big of a lead I had going into this boss fight. And, you can imagine, not every clear goes that smoothly. So the one thing that you may kind of require to do such a clear, a very high one, is a Power Pylon. Power Pylon, if I had one right now, I would just shred him dead instantly. And I would still have a couple minutes left on the timer. But the beauty of the Whirlwind power is it gathers everything up so beautifully, so you can just smash it down with your big hammer. And I'm quite sure that the HOTA build is stronger than Whirlwind. I think next season they will both do 150, but I think you'll be able to do it easier with Hammer of the Ancients, even with the terrible boss fight. You will need a conduit during the rift. You will hopefully need a power for the boss. Hopefully you can spawn that. But with how well you can pixel on the big maps, as long as you save yourself that little section to spawn yourself the conduit, smash down the trash, check it, get the conduit, zap the elites, go next, get a decent follow-up, get a power, don't use it, finish the rift, stack Stricken, click the power, and smash them, I think you'll be able to do this. Takes a little bit of rotation practice with proccing your Band of Might in cold, pixeling him in a nice spot in cold, DPSing a little bit in cold to spawn an Aki, whirling over in cold to pixel them for the fire cycle, and then smashing them down. You can do it. And I'll release a full guide on how to gear it and everything. But this was one of the top clears, and if you thought Whirlwind was strong, Hammer of the Ancients is even better.